The moment Lucas Vaughn walked into the crowded bar, he wasn't looking for anything special, just a quiet corner where he could escape the weight of the day's decisions. Running a chain of luxury hotels meant his life was filled with numbers and negotiations, not meaningful connections. But that was before he saw her, the woman with copper hair sitting alone at the bar, fingers tapping absently against her empty glass as she stared at her phone with a furrowed brow. He couldn't explain what drew him to her. Maybe it was the way she seemed as out of place as he felt. Or perhaps it was simply that in a room full of people trying to be noticed, she was genuinely lost in her own thoughts. Lucas made his way through the crowd, loosening his custom-tailored tie as he approached. "Whatever she's having, put it on my tab," Lucas said to the bartender, sliding onto the stool next to the stranger. "And another bourbon for me." The woman looked up, startled out of her concentration. Her eyes were a warm amber that caught the dim lighting of the bar, making them appear almost golden. "That's kind of you, but unnecessary," she said with a polite smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Consider it my good deed for the day," Lucas replied. "I'm Lucas. Mia Zimmerman," she said, extending her hand. "And while I appreciate the gesture, I don't usually accept drinks from strangers." Lucas chuckled. "Smart policy. How about this? I'll buy the drink, no strings attached, and if you want to leave right after, I'll completely understand." Mia studied him for a moment, her gaze shrewd and assessing. Finally, her shoulders relaxed slightly. "One drink," she agreed, holding up a single finger. "I could use a distraction anyway." The bartender placed their drinks before them, another gin and tonic for her, bourbon neat for him. Lucas raised his glass. "To distractions." She clinked her glass against his. "To kind strangers who hopefully aren't serial killers." Lucas nearly choked on his drink, surprised by her blunt humor. "I promise I'm not, though I suppose that's exactly what a serial killer would say." Mia laughed, and for the first time since he'd approached, the sound was genuine. "So, Lucas with the nice suit and generous drink-buying tendencies, what brings you here on a Tuesday night, avoiding my hotel room?" he admitted. "You. Avoiding my empty apartment," she replied. "I got laid off today, publishing industry, budget cuts." She said it matter-of-factly, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers gripped the glass a little too tightly. "I'm sorry to hear that. What did you do in publishing?" "I was a developmental editor. I helped authors shape their manuscripts, make their stories stronger." She took a sip of her drink. "I loved it, actually. There's something incredible about being part of someone's creative process." Lucas found himself genuinely intrigued. He spent his days surrounded by people who wanted something from him: his money, his influence, his connections. Mia spoke about her work with a passion that had nothing to do with status or wealth. "What about you?" she asked. "What are you avoiding at your hotel?" Lucas hesitated. He rarely revealed much about himself to people he'd just met. His wealth had made him cautious. "I'm in town for business," he said simply. "The hotel room feels too quiet sometimes." "Ah, the lonely business traveler," Mia nodded. "What kind of business?" "Hospitality," he answered vaguely. "I own a few properties." Mia raised an eyebrow. "A few properties? That's interestingly vague. Are we talking houses, hotels, secret underground bunkers?" Lucas laughed, surprised again by her directness. "Hotels, actually. Impressive." "And yet here you are, buying drinks for unemployed editors in random bars." "Maybe I'm just in the habit of improving people's accommodations," he said with a grin. Their conversation flowed easily after that. One drink turned into two as they discussed everything from books they'd read recently to the worst travel experiences they'd ever had. Lucas found himself relaxing, telling stories he hadn't shared with anyone in years. He didn't mention the fact that his few properties were actually a chain of luxury hotels worth billions, or that he'd spent the day in meetings about acquiring another major hotel group. As they ordered their third round, Mia checked her watch and looked surprised. "It's almost midnight." "I didn't realize we'd been talking so long." Lucas felt a twinge of disappointment. "Are you heading out?" Mia hesitated, then shook her head. Not yet, if that's okay. I'm actually enjoying myself, which is saying something considering how my day started. I'm glad I could help turn it around, Lucas said sincerely. You know what would make it even better? Mia's eyes lit up with a mischievous gleam. Food, I'm starving and this place stopped serving an hour ago. Lucas grinned. I know a place that's open late. Great burgers if you're interested. Lead the way, Mia said, sliding off her stool. But just to be clear, I'm paying for my own food. The drink was nice, but I don't want you getting the wrong idea. Understood, Lucas agreed, though he had every intention of finding a way around her stipulation. Something about her independence intrigued him. Most people he met were all too eager to let him pay. They walked the 3 blocks to the late-night diner, the cool night air refreshing after the stuffiness of the bar. Lucas noticed Mia hugging her light jacket around herself against the chill, and without thinking, he slipped off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. Oh, you don't have to, she started to protest. I run hot, he lied smoothly. It's actually more comfortable for me this way. Mia gave him a look that said she didn't quite believe him but accepted the jacket nonetheless. Thank you. The diner was nearly empty when they arrived, just a couple of night shift workers grabbing coffee before heading to their jobs. They slid into a booth by the window, and a waitress with tired eyes and a kind smile brought them menus. So, Mia Zimmerman, the developmental editor, tell me something I don't know about you yet, Lucas said after they'd ordered. Mia tilted her head, considering the question. I have a degree in English literature but also minored in astronomy. I've always been fascinated by stars. That's an interesting combination. I like stories and I like the universe. Both are vast and full of possibilities, she said with a small shrug. Your turn. Lucas thought for a moment. Most of his defining characteristics were tied to his business success, but he didn't want to lead with that. I collect vintage vinyl records. My father was a musician, not famous, just played in local bands, and he got me into it when I was a kid. What kind of music? Blues mostly, some jazz. My dad always said you can hear a person's soul in the way they play blues. I'd like to hear your collection sometime, Mia said, then immediately looked embarrassed. I mean, that was presumptuous. We just met. I'd like that too, Lucas replied, surprising himself with how much he meant it. Their food arrived, and they fell into an easy rhythm of conversation again. Lucas couldn't remember the last time he'd talked so openly with someone who didn't know who he was or what he was worth. It was refreshing to be just Lucas, not Lucas Vaughn, the hotel magnate whose name appeared regularly in business publications. So what happens tomorrow? Lucas asked as they finished their meals. With the job situation, I mean. Mia's face fell slightly, but she quickly composed herself. I update my resume, start applying, dip into my savings and hope something comes up before they run out. She attempted a smile. Standard adulting in a tough economy. What's your dream job if you could do anything? Honestly, I'd love to run my own small publishing house someday. Focus on undiscovered voices, stories that might get overlooked by the big publishers. Her eyes lit up as she spoke. There's so much talent out there that never gets a chance because it doesn't fit neatly into marketable categories. Lucas felt a flutter of admiration. He recognized the entrepreneurial spirit in her, the same drive that had pushed him to build his business from a single struggling hotel he'd purchased in his 20s. That's a great goal, he said, and something the industry needs. Mia laughed softly. Well, it requires capital I don't have, so for now, I'll settle for finding another editing position. The waitress brought their check, and before Mia could reach for it, Lucas smoothly handed over his credit card. Hey, I said I'd pay for mine, Mia protested. You can get the next one, Lucas said, the words surprising him as much as they seemed to surprise her. The next one, Mia raised an eyebrow. That's presumptuous. Is it? Lucas asked, suddenly feeling uncertain. Had he misread the connection between them? A slow smile spread across Mia's face. No, I suppose it isn't, but I'm definitely paying next time. Relief washed over him. It's a deal. After they left the diner, they walked aimlessly through the quiet streets. Neither seemed ready for the night to end. They found themselves at a small park, sitting on a bench beneath a street lamp, continuing their conversation as if they'd known each other for years instead of hours. "Look," Mia said suddenly, pointing up at the sky. "You can actually see a few stars despite the city lights." Lucas followed her gaze upward. The city's light pollution obscured most of the stars, but a few bright ones managed to shine through. "Which ones are those?" "That's Vega," she said, pointing. "And over there, that's Jupiter, actually not a star at all." "Show off," Lucas teased. "Hey, you asked," she laughed, bumping her shoulder against his. The casual contact sent an unexpected jolt through Lucas. He looked at her profile, illuminated by the soft glow of the street lamp, and felt something shift inside him. He hadn't planned on meeting anyone tonight, certainly hadn't planned on feeling this inexplicable connection to a woman he'd known for less than 6 hours. "What?" Mia asked, catching his stare. "Nothing," Lucas said, then reconsidered. "Actually, I was just thinking that I'm glad I decided to buy you that drink." "Me too," she admitted softly. "Though I'm still not entirely convinced you're not a serial killer," Lucas laughed. "If I were, I'd be terrible at it. I've left witnesses at both the bar and the diner." "Good point." "Plus my roommate knows where I am." She paused. "Well, she knows I went to that bar. I should probably text her that I'm still alive." "You have a roommate?" Lucas asked, surprised. "Yeah, Sophie. We've lived together for 3 years. She's a nurse, works night shifts at the hospital." Mia pulled out her phone and sent a quick text. "There, now she won't file a missing persons report." Lucas checked his own phone and was surprised to see it was nearly 3 in the morning. "I had no idea it was so late. Time flies when you're—" Mia trailed off. "Having fun?" Lucas suggested. "Yeah," she agreed with a soft smile. A comfortable silence fell between them. In the distance, they could hear the occasional car passing, the city never truly sleeping even in these quiet hours. Lucas couldn't remember the last time he'd felt so at peace, so present in a moment. "I should probably head home," Mia said finally, though she made no move to get up. "I'll walk you," Lucas offered immediately. "It's in the opposite direction from your hotel." "How do you know which direction my hotel is in?" Mia smiled. "Process of elimination." "You said you're staying downtown, and we've been walking away from downtown for the last hour." "Observant," Lucas noted, impressed. "Still, I'd like to walk you home." Mia hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, thank you." They walked the 12 blocks to her apartment building, a modest brick structure in a neighborhood that was clearly in the early stages of gentrification. Lucas was acutely aware that his watch probably cost more than 3 months of her rent, and for the first time in years, he felt uncomfortable about his wealth. They stopped in front of her building's entrance. Mia slipped off his suit jacket, which she'd been wearing all evening, and handed it back to him. "Thank you for this, and for the drink, and for making what started as a really awful day end up being not awful at all." Lucas took the jacket, his fingers brushing against hers in the exchange. "Thank you for keeping me company. Best night I've had in a long time." They stood there for a moment, neither quite ready to say goodbye. Lucas felt a familiar tension in the air, the kind that precedes a first kiss, but something held him back. This felt different from his usual encounters. He didn't want to rush it. "Could I see you again?" he asked instead. Mia bit her lip, looking up at him with those amber eyes that had first caught his attention. "I'd like that. Tomorrow, dinner, don't you have business meetings or something?" Lucas grinned. "I'm the boss." "I can reschedule." Mia's eyes widened slightly. "The boss, of these few properties you own?" "Something like that," Lucas said, not quite ready to reveal the full extent of his success. "Is that a yes to dinner?" "Yes," Mia said, "but I'm paying, remember." "We'll see about that," Lucas replied with a wink. "Can I get your number?" They exchanged phones, inputting their contact information. When Lucas handed Mia's phone back to her, their hands touched again, lingering this time. "Good night, Lucas," Mia said softly. "Good night, Mia." He waited until she was safely inside the building before turning to leave, his mind already racing ahead to tomorrow, to seeing her again. For the first time in years, Lucas felt anticipation that had nothing to do with business deals or financial gains. The walk back to his hotel took nearly 40 minutes, but Lucas barely noticed the time or the distance. His thoughts were consumed with copper hair and amber eyes, with the way Mia's laugh seemed to start in her eyes before reaching her lips, with the passion in her voice when she spoke about books and publishing. When he finally reached his luxury suite at the Grand Plaza, one of his own properties, he realized with some amusement that he'd never mentioned to Mia that he wasn't just a hotel owner, but the CEO and founder of Vaughn Hospitality Group, one of the largest luxury hotel chains in the country. Somehow, it hadn't seemed important. Lucas fell into bed as the first light of dawn began to filter through his window, exhausted but happier than he'd been in a long time. His last thought before drifting off to sleep was that buying a drink for a stranger had unexpectedly changed something in him, awakened a part of himself he'd forgotten existed. When Lucas woke just a few hours later, he had 3 missed calls from his executive assistant and a calendar notification for a meeting he was already 30 minutes late for. He groaned, dragging himself out of bed and into the shower. As the hot water beat down on him, Lucas found himself smiling at the memory of the previous night. He'd spent countless evenings in high-end restaurants and exclusive clubs, surrounded by people eager to be in his orbit, and none of them had felt as genuine or enjoyable as sitting in a cheap diner with Mia Zimmerman. He dressed quickly in another perfectly tailored suit and called his assistant as he headed down to the conference room. "Where are you?" Angela demanded without preamble. "Good morning to you too," Lucas replied, stepping into the elevator. "I'm on my way down now, stall them for 5 minutes." "I've been stalling for 30. The Meridian Group's CFO looks like he's about to have an aneurysm. Tell him I had an emergency call with our Tokyo property," Lucas said smoothly. "I'll make it worth the wait." He hung up before Angela could protest further and checked his phone for messages. There was one from Mia sent just minutes ago. "Good morning. Just wanted to confirm our dinner plans for tonight. I'm thinking 7 o'clock. Also, fair warning, I Googled you this morning. A few properties, very modest of you, Mr. Hotel Magnate." Mia, Lucas felt a momentary panic. He'd wanted to tell her about his business himself to control the narrative. He quickly typed a response. "Good morning. 7 o'clock works perfectly. I'll pick you up. And yes, I should have been more forthcoming about my work. I hope it doesn't change anything." Her response came quickly. "Depends. Does being a millionaire make you a better or worse dinner companion than you were last night? Because last night was pretty great." Lucas grinned at his phone as the elevator doors opened. "Better, obviously. I know all the best restaurants. We'll see about that. I know some pretty amazing hole-in-the-wall places a millionaire probably hasn't discovered. Still my treat tonight. Will negotiate. See you at 7. Lucas pocketed his phone and strode into the conference room, where 6 people in expensive suits sat around a mahogany table looking various degrees of annoyed. "Gentlemen, ladies, I apologize for the delay," Lucas said confidently, taking his seat at the head of the table. "Let's talk about how Vaughn Hospitality can transform the Meridian properties." The meeting dragged on for 3 hours, followed by another meeting with his management team, and then lunch with a potential investor. Throughout it all, Lucas found his thoughts repeatedly drifting to Mia and their upcoming dinner. At 4:30, he finally had a break in his schedule. He called the concierge at his hotel. "James, I need a recommendation for tonight, something special but not ostentatious, somewhere with character." "Of course, Mr. Vaughn, may I ask the occasion?" Lucas hesitated. "A date." "Ah," James said, and Lucas could hear the smile in his voice. James had been working for Vaughn Hospitality for over a decade and had never once heard Lucas use the word date. "I have just the place." "Shall I make a reservation for 2? "Yes, 7:30. After hanging up, Lucas texted Angela to clear his schedule for the rest of the evening and, after a moment's thought, for the following morning as well. He then called his driver to arrange transportation for the night. At precisely 6:45, Lucas stood outside Mia's apartment building, a small bouquet of wildflowers in hand. He debated bringing roses but decided they felt too formal, too predictable. Mia struck him as someone who would appreciate the unexpected. He pressed the buzzer for her apartment, and a moment later her voice came through the intercom. "Hello, it's Lucas. Come on up, 3B. The door buzzed, and Lucas made his way to the third floor. He knocked on her door, suddenly feeling nervous in a way he hadn't felt since his first business presentation years ago. Mia opened the door, and Lucas felt his breath catch. She was wearing a simple emerald green dress that complemented her copper hair, which fell in loose waves around her shoulders. She looked beautiful, but not as if she'd tried too hard, exactly like the woman he'd been drawn to at the bar. "Hi," she said with a smile. "You're early." "Punctuality is a virtue," Lucas replied, handing her the flowers. "These are for you." Mia looked surprised but pleased as she accepted them. "Thank you, they're beautiful. Come in while I put these in water." Lucas followed her into the apartment, which was small but warm and inviting. Bookshelves lined one wall, packed to overflowing with volumes of all sizes. A comfortable-looking couch faced a modest television, and framed photographs covered another wall with various people, presumably friends and family. "Nice place," Lucas said genuinely. "It's small, but it's home," Mia replied, filling a vase with water for the flowers. "I'm sure it's nothing compared to what you're used to." "Size isn't everything," Lucas said. "This feels lived in, personal." Mia arranged the flowers in the vase and placed them on the coffee table. "There." "Perfect." She grabbed a small purse from the counter. "So, where are we going for this dinner that I'm paying for?" Lucas smiled. "It's a surprise, and we're still negotiating on who's paying." They headed downstairs, where Lucas's driver waited with a sleek black town car. Mia raised an eyebrow at Lucas. "A car service? Fancy." "Actually, David works for me full-time," Lucas admitted as the driver opened the door for them. "David, this is Mia." "Pleasure to meet you, Miss Mia," David said with a warm smile. "Where to this evening, Mr. Vaughn?" "Tara, please." James made a reservation for 7:30. As they settled into the back seat, Mia turned to Lucas. "So this is how the other half lives, personal drivers and restaurant reservations made by people named James," Lucas laughed. "James is the concierge at my hotel, and yes, I have a driver. My one true luxury indulgence. I hate driving in cities." Mia said skeptically. "Something tells me that's not your only luxury indulgence, Mr. Fortune 500 under 40 Vaughn." Lucas winced. "You really did Google me?" "Of course I did." "Wouldn't you, if you'd spent the night talking to a stranger who turned out to be running a multi-billion-dollar company?" "Fair point," Lucas conceded. "Look, I'm sorry I wasn't more upfront about my business. It's just refreshing to meet someone who doesn't know about that part of my life first." Mia's expression softened. "I get it. It must be hard to know if people like you or for your money." "Exactly," Lucas said, relieved she understood. "And for what it's worth, I enjoyed last night because you're interesting and funny and passionate about what you do. Not because of what you could do for me or what I could get from you." "Well, accept the pleasure of my company," Mia said with a teasing smile. "That's a pretty valuable commodity," Lucas agreed, returning her smile. The restaurant was exactly what Lucas had hoped for, intimate and charming without being pretentious. They were seated at a corner table near a window overlooking a small garden courtyard. Soft jazz played in the background, and candles flickered on each table. "This is lovely," Mia said, looking around appreciatively. "I'm glad you like it," Lucas replied, genuinely pleased by her reaction. "The chef here is incredible. She trained in France but specializes in combining classical techniques with local ingredients." They ordered wine and appetizers, falling back into the easy conversation that had characterized the previous night. Lucas found himself opening up about his childhood, his father's struggle with alcoholism after his mother left, the years spent moving from apartment to apartment as his dad chased gigs with various bands. "How did you go from that to?" Mia gestured vaguely. "All this." Scholarships got me through college, Lucas explained. I studied business and worked 3 jobs. After graduation, I got a position at a hotel management company. I was good at it, solving problems, improving efficiency, increasing customer satisfaction. And then I took a risk. I saw this small, struggling boutique hotel for sale in San Francisco. I convinced a few investors to back me, scraped together every penny I had and bought it. Turned it around in 18 months and used the profits to buy another property. Then another. Lucas shrugged. 15 years later, here we are, 47 hotels across 12 countries. Mia looked impressed. That's incredible, Lucas. It was a lot of work, he admitted. A lot of missed holidays and weekends. A lot of relationships that didn't work out because I was always focused on the next acquisition, the next renovation. Was it worth it? Mia asked softly. Lucas considered the question, looking at the woman across from him. Most days, yes. Some days I wonder what I've missed while building an empire. Their main courses arrived, momentarily pausing their conversation. As they ate, Lucas steered the topic back to Mia. So, tell me more about this dream publishing house of yours. Mia's eyes lit up as she described her vision: a small, curated list of books by diverse voices, quality over quantity, with fair contracts for authors and personal attention from editors. What's stopping you from starting it? Lucas asked. Besides the minor issue of capital, Mia laughed. Experience, I suppose. I've edited books but never run a business. Those are solvable problems, Lucas said thoughtfully. Are you offering to bankroll my publishing dreams, Mr. Vaughn? Mia asked, her tone light but with an edge of caution. No, Lucas said quickly. I mean, not exactly. I just think you shouldn't dismiss the possibility. Business skills can be learned. Passion and vision are much harder to find. The conversation shifted again, moving from their professional aspirations to more personal topics: their favorite books, places they'd traveled, the kind of lives they hoped to build. By the time dessert arrived, Lucas felt as if he'd known Mia for years rather than days. As they shared a chocolate souffle, their fingers occasionally brushing, Lucas found himself thinking about how different this felt from his usual dates. There was no calculation here, no assessment of what strategic advantage a relationship might offer. Just genuine connection. When the check came, Lucas reached for it, but Mia was faster. I told you this one's on me, she said firmly. Mia, please let me know, she cut him off. I know it's probably pocket change to you, but it matters to me. I don't want to start whatever this is, she gestured between them with an imbalance. Lucas studied her determined expression and slowly withdrew his hand. Okay, he said. Thank you for dinner. Mia smiled, visibly relieved. You're welcome. She handed her credit card to the waiter, and Lucas pretended not to notice the way she quickly checked the total before signing. After dinner, neither of them was ready for the night to end. They decided to walk for a while, despite Mia's heels, enjoying the warm spring evening. So, Mia said as they strolled side by side, occasionally brushing shoulders. What now? What do you mean? Well, you're a millionaire hotel magnate who lives. Where exactly? Chicago, mostly, Lucas replied. Though I travel about half the year. And I'm a newly unemployed editor who lives here in New York with a roommate and a dwindling savings account, Mia pointed out. Not exactly a recipe for whatever this is. Lucas stopped walking and turned to face her. What do you want it to be? Mia looked up at him, her expression serious. I don't know. I like you, Lucas, more than I expected to, but I'm also practical. Your life and mine are very different. They don't have to be incompatible, Lucas said, taking her hand in his. I'm not asking for promises or commitments after 2 days. I'm just asking for a chance to see where this goes. Mia's fingers tightened around his. How long are you in New York? I was supposed to leave tomorrow, Lucas admitted, but I've decided to extend my stay at least for a few more days. Because of me? Mia asked, sounding surprised. Yes, Lucas said simply, because I'd like to spend more time with you. Mia was quiet for a moment, then smiled. I'd like that too. They continued walking, hands still linked, talking about what they might do over the next few days, a visit to the Museum of Modern Art, perhaps, or a concert in the park. When they reached Mia's apartment building again, Lucas walked her to the door. This time, the tension between them was unmistakable. Lucas reached up to tuck a strand of copper hair behind Mia's ear, his hand lingering against her cheek. "I had a wonderful time tonight," he said softly. "So did I," Mia replied, her voice equally quiet. "Even if you did try to sneakily pay for dinner when I wasn't looking," Lucas laughed. "You caught that, huh? I'm observant, remember?" Her amber eyes sparkled with amusement. "Plus, I saw you slip the waiter your card when I went to the restroom." "Guilty as charged," Lucas admitted, not feeling particularly remorseful. Mia shook her head, still smiling. "You're incorrigible. I've been called worse." They stood there for a moment, the space between them charged with anticipation. Finally, Lucas leaned down, closing the distance between them. Their lips met in a kiss that started gently but quickly deepened, Mia's hands coming up to rest against his chest as his arms encircled her waist. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Mia looked up at him with a mixture of wonder and caution. "That was." She began, "Incredible," Lucas finished for her. Mia nodded. "Yes, but also complicated." "Why complicated?" "Because I like you," she said simply. "And liking a man who lives across the country and runs a global business empire isn't exactly the smartest move for a woman in my position." "What position is that?" Lucas asked. "Vulnerable," Mia admitted. "Unemployed, at a crossroads." Lucas brought his hand back to her cheek. "I understand." "We can take it slow." Mia leaned into his touch. "Slow sounds good. Can I see you tomorrow?" Lucas asked. "Yes," Mia replied without hesitation, "but I get to plan it this time." "Deal," Lucas agreed. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Good night, Mia." "Good night, Lucas." He waited until she was inside before returning to his car, where David had been patiently waiting. As they drove back to the hotel, Lucas found himself unable to stop smiling. 2 nights with Mia Zimmerman had made him feel more alive than he had in years. The next 3 days passed in a blur of shared experiences. True to her word, Mia planned their next date a tour of her favorite independent bookstores in the city, followed by lunch at a tiny Ethiopian restaurant where they ate with their hands and laughed over honey wine. Lucas, in turn, took her to a private viewing of a new exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, arranged through one of his hotel clients who sat on the museum's board. On the 4th day, they took a ferry to Staten Island just for the ride, standing at the rail watching the Manhattan skyline recede behind them. Lucas wrapped his arms around Mia from behind, sheltering her from the wind, and felt a sense of contentment he'd almost forgotten was possible. "I have to go back to Chicago tomorrow," he said reluctantly, his chin resting on the top of her head. Mia stiffened slightly in his arms but didn't pull away. "I know. I want to see you again." She turned in his embrace to face him. "How would that work exactly?" "Long-distance relationships are hard enough when both people have stable lives." "We'll figure it out," Lucas said, more confidently than he felt. "I come to New York at least once a month for business. You could visit me in Chicago, and there's always video calls in between." Mia looked skeptical. "That doesn't sound very sustainable." Lucas took a deep breath. "What if I helped you start your publishing company?" Mia's eyes widened. "What? Not as a handout," Lucas clarified quickly. "As an investment, a proper business arrangement with contracts and expectations." "You have the vision and the industry knowledge. I can provide capital and business expertise." "Lucas, I couldn't." "You could," he interrupted. "You'd be doing me a favor, actually. I've been looking to diversify my investments beyond real estate." Mia shook her head. "This is crazy." "We've known each other for 5 days. Sometimes you just know when something's right," Lucas said. "I knew it the moment I saw you at that bar. I didn't understand it then, but I do now." "What are you saying?" Mia asked, her voice barely audible above the wind and the ferry's engines. "I'm saying I'm falling in love with you," Lucas admitted, "and I don't want geography or circumstances to keep us apart." Mia's eyes filled with tears. That's not fair. You can't just say something like that and then leave tomorrow. Then come with me, Lucas said impulsively. To Chicago. Just for a visit, see if you like it there. I can't just drop everything and follow you to Chicago. Why not? You said yourself you're at a crossroads. No job tying you down, no pressing commitments. My life is here, Mia protested, though her argument sounded weak even to her own ears. Your apartment is here, Lucas corrected gently. Your life is what you make it where you make it. Mia was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the water. This is insane, she said finally. Is that a yes? Lucas asked, hope rising in his chest. It's I need to think about it, Mia replied, but she was smiling now. Ask me again tonight. That evening, Lucas took Mia to his hotel suite for the first time. He'd had the staff prepare a private dinner on the balcony overlooking Central Park. As they ate and watched the sun set over the city, Lucas found himself imagining a future with Mia by his side, her warmth and humor balancing his tendency toward workaholism. Her passion for stories complementing his passion for creating beautiful spaces. After dinner, they moved to the living room area of the suite, where Lucas had arranged for a selection of vintage jazz records to be set up with a record player. I thought you might like to hear some of my collection, he explained, selecting a Billie Holiday album and carefully placing the needle. As the first notes filled the room, he extended his hand to Mia. Dance with me. She stepped into his arms and they swayed gently to the music, her head resting against his chest. Lucas could feel her heart beating in time with his, their bodies perfectly aligned. I've been thinking, Mia said after a while, her voice soft against his shirt. Dangerous, Lucas teased. Mia looked up at him, her expression serious. I want to try us, even with the distance, even with the complications. Lucas felt his heart swell. Really, Mia confirmed, but I'm not moving to Chicago tomorrow, and I'm not taking your money to start a publishing company. At least not yet. That seems fair, Lucas agreed. What about visiting? Would you consider coming to see me next weekend? Mia nodded. I would. I'd like to see where the famous Lucas Vaughn lives. It's nothing special, Lucas said, then caught himself. Well, it's a penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, so I suppose by normal standards it's somewhat special. Mia laughed. Your perspective is so skewed. You'll help me fix that, Lucas said confidently. Is that what you want? Someone to keep you grounded? Lucas considered the question. No, he said finally. I want someone who sees me for who I am, not what I have. Someone who challenges me and makes me laugh and reminds me there's more to life than balance sheets and occupancy rates. He brushed a thumb across her cheek. I think that someone is you, Mia Zimmerman. Mia's eyes softened. I think you might be right. 6 months later, Mia moved to Chicago. Not into Lucas's penthouse, she insisted on having her own place. A charming apartment in Lincoln Park that she could afford on her salary as a senior editor at a publishing house, where Lucas happened to know the owner. Their relationship progressed naturally, with occasional arguments but far more moments of joy and discovery. A year after they met, Lucas proposed on the balcony of the hotel suite where they'd had their first dance. 2 months after that, Mia's first acquisition for her new independent imprint backed by investors that included but were not limited to Lucas Vaughn hit the bestseller list. And when they finally married in a small ceremony overlooking Lake Michigan, Lucas included one specific detail in his vows that made Mia's eyes fill with happy tears. Thank you for being the stranger who kept me there all night, and every night since. As they danced at their reception, Lucas held Mia close, marveling at how a simple decision to buy a drink for a stranger had changed the course of his life entirely and undeniably for the better. What are you thinking about? Mia asked, noticing his thoughtful expression. Just that I'm the luckiest man in the world, Lucas replied honestly. Because you're worth billions? Mia teased. Lucas shook his head. Because I found you. Everything else is just details. And as he looked into the amber eyes that had first caught his attention that night at the bar, Lucas Vaughn, hotel magnate and self-made billionaire, knew with absolute certainty that no business deal, no acquisition, no amount of wealth could ever compare to the richness of loving and being loved by Mia Zimmerman.